There's a number sitting in your super account that most people treat like background noise. You might check it once a year, maybe twice, maybe you haven't looked in 3 years. But here's the thing, nobody tells you. That number isn't just digits on a screen. It's a preview of the life you'll live after you stop working. The one where you either choose what you do with your time or spend every day watching what you spend. So today, I'm going to walk you through every level of super from nearly empty to over $1 million and tell you exactly what each one actually feels like when you get there. Let's start at the bottom. If your super balance is under $10,000, you're basically invisible to your own future. This is where most people under 25 sit, with an average around $8,800. At this stage, the fees your fund charges can actually eat into your balance faster than your contributions grow it. You're not building wealth, you're treading water. And the worst part is, it doesn't feel urgent. You're young. Retirement is decades away, so you ignore it. And that's the trap. Because the money you don't put in at 22 or 23 is the money that would have worked the hardest for you. Time is the single greatest advantage you'll ever have in super, and most people waste it without even knowing. Now, between $10,000 and $50,000, something small starts to shift. You might notice your balance ticking up between statements. This is where most Australians in their late 20s sit, around $27,000 on average. The money's real now, but it still feels abstract. You can't touch it, you can't use it, and it's not growing fast enough to get excited about. But here's what most people miss at this level. This is the most important stage of your entire super journey. Every dollar you contribute now has 30 or 40 years to compound. A lot of people wait until they're earning big money before they start paying attention to super. But it's not about how much you earn. It's about how early you start. Someone who puts in an extra $2,000 a year from age 25 will almost always end up with more than someone who puts in $5,000 a year starting at 40. Between $50,000 and $100,000 is where things start getting interesting. You're now in the zone where compound returns begin to show themselves. At this level, your investment returns in a good year might add $7,000 to $10,000 to your balance, without you doing anything. That's a psychological turning point. You stop seeing super as a tax you pay and start seeing it as a machine that works for you. The average Australian aged 35 to 39 has about $85,000 in super. So if you're in this range in your mid-30s, you're tracking with the pack. But tracking with the pack in Australia means retiring on roughly $35,500 a year as a single person. That's what ASFA calls a modest retirement. It covers the basics: groceries, bills, a second-hand car, maybe a cheap domestic trip once a year. No overseas holidays, no room to spoil the grandkids, no safety net if the hot water system dies, or the car breaks down in the same month. Modest doesn't mean bad, but it does mean tight. And most people don't realize that's where they're headed until it's too late to change course. Let's keep going. Between $100,000 and $250,000, you've crossed into a zone most Australians reach somewhere in their 40s. At this stage, compound growth is doing serious work. In a decent year, your balance might jump $15,000 to $25,000 from returns alone. You start to feel a sense of momentum. You check your super more often. You start thinking about contribution strategies. Maybe you salary sacrifice an extra $200 a fortnight. And that decision alone, over 15 years, could add $80,000 or more to your retirement. And there's another thing that happens around this mark that nobody really talks about. You start comparing. You hear a mate mention his balance at a barbecue, and suddenly you're doing the maths in your head. You read an article about average balances and feel either relief or dread. This is the stage where super becomes personal. It's no longer just some government system running in the background. It's your money, your future. Now, $250,000 to $500,000. The average Australian aged 60 to 64 has about $263,000. So $500,000 is already above average for someone about to retire. But here's the hard truth. $500,000 sounds like a lot until you divide it across 20 or 25 years of retirement. Even at a 5% drawdown rate, that gives you $25,000 a year from super. Add the full age pension of about $31,200 a year for a single person, and you're looking at roughly $56,000. According to ASFA, A comfortable retirement for a single person costs about $54,840 a year. So at $500,000, you're just scraping into comfortable territory. One major health expense, one car replacement, one home repair, and you're back to modest. This is the range where most Australians start to feel the gap between what they expected and what they've actually got. You imagined freedom. You imagined travel. Instead, you're doing mental arithmetic every time you go to the shops. And that feeling doesn't go away. Once you're living it, every purchase carries a little weight. You start second guessing things you never thought twice about when you were working. It's not poverty, but it's not the freedom you spent 40 years dreaming about either. Between $500,000 and $750,000, the feeling changes. You've got a buffer. You can absorb a surprise expense without panicking. You can book a domestic holiday without guilt. You can help your kids with a house deposit and still sleep at night. At this level, something clicks. You stop worrying about whether you'll have enough and start thinking about what you actually want your retirement to look like. That shift changes everything. You go from hoping it'll work out to knowing it will. Now let's talk about $750,000 to $1 million. $1 million in super drawn down at 5% a year gives you $50,000 annually before the age pension. If you qualify for even a partial pension, you could be pulling in $60,000 to $70,000 a year. That's a comfortable retirement with room to breathe. International holidays, helping the grandkids, a new car every 8 to 10 years, private health cover without stress. This is the level where retirement actually looks like what the ads promise. And above $1 million is a different world entirely. You're not just comfortable, you're choosing where to live, choosing when to help family, choosing to take that trip to Europe and not think twice. Less than 10% of Australians retire with super above $1 million. If you get there, you've won a game most people don't even realize they're playing. Now, here's what I really want you to take away from this. It doesn't matter what level you're at right now. What matters is what you do next. The super guarantee just hit 12%. From July 2026, your employer has to pay it on payday. Concessional contribution caps are rising to $32,500. These are tools, and tools only work if you pick them up. If you're in your 20s or 30s, an extra $50 a week into super could mean the difference between modest and comfortable 30 years from now. If you're in your 40s or 50s, salary sacrificing up to the cap could add $100,000 or more before you retire. And if you're already close to retirement, consolidating your funds, checking your fees, and getting proper financial advice could stretch your money years further than you think. Don't just let your super sit in whatever default option your fund picked for you 15 years ago. Look at where your money's invested. Look at what you're paying in fees. A 0.5% difference in fees doesn't sound like much, but over 30 years, it could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. If this opened your eyes even a little, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.